Okay, welcome everyone to West East Poets of the Pandemic and Beyond. Our series opened in June 2020, and we've hosted hundreds of poets since that time in our virtual readings. One of the great things about the virtual reading, of course, is that we can have readers from different parts of the country. We've also hosted readers from the Caribbean, Ireland, England, Brazil, and Argentina. So we're trying to expand our reach, and we look forward to hosting, poets from around the world and to continue doing that. Our co-hosts, I'm Lynn McGee. My co-hosts are Sandy Yannone, Susana H, and Carolyne Wright. Carolyne can't be with us today, but she's one of our hosts, and we have kind of an unusual series in that each host invites a reader, and we introduce the person that we invited. So it's a little bit different in that way. We ask that you please stay muted if you don't mind while the person is reading, and remember that it's being recorded. There's a chat column if you want to send the poet some love while they're reading. And we will screen share their book covers as well as links to their books in the chat column, so you can click on that and order their books if you want. So, and also their bios. So let me just, that's it. I'm gonna pass the virtual mic to Susana, who will introduce our first reader.
So it's my pleasure to introduce Bunny Jill Emanuel. Her book in Glitter City, here is the way it looks, but I think it'll be on the screen shortly. It's her debut collection, and in her collection, glitter it's lots of things. It's poetry, it's New York City, it's sometimes Detroit, it's the unreal, it's the urban and suburban improbability of nature. It's life, really. It's a collection in which the moon keeps reappearing as a romantic object, as protector, as stone-cold mystery. This is narrative poetry at its best, in my opinion, a coming-of-age tale, but more than that, an ode to flowers, even the lowly dandelion, and poppy seed cookies, which I too remember from growing up. The Apollo 11 moon landing shows up, COVID shows up, other cultural events are also referenced in this collection, though the poems are not about those things, but you can hear for yourself. So here's Bunny Jill Emanuel.
Let me just unshare. Hold on a second. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me? Great.
I will put you on speaker review.
So, thank you for that generous introduction, Susana, and for inviting me to read. I think I asked to read, but you neglected to say that. I have some more thank yous at the end, but I'm going to just launch right into the reading. And I'm reading new work. I'm going to read one poem from the book towards the end, but I'm trying out new work today. And the first poem is called Birds in a V High Over I-70. And I actually wrote it a few weeks ago. I was in Lawrence, Kansas, visiting my brother. And it turns out that Langston Hughes grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, and I found that out. So he makes a cameo appearance in the poem. Birds in a V high over I-70. The sky is large, driving out of Kansas. February's phantom, gray pearl. I search the wide, cold for something lost. Dead white wheat fields for miles, ghosts of pines, a power plant, blank icy hills, exits trancing by. Langston, these your mountains and the endless plain. Alone in my car, only you can hear me. Shivers of snow jag the windshield, my disjointed lines at the crystalline verge of something silent. Kaw River, crooking and turning, a skein of geese is a dark arrow, a point in the distance between the dream and the self. I open my mouth and the wind enters. I look across the world. So this next poem is called Jump, and it's from my friend Julie, who's actually here today, my childhood friend. It's an Ars Poetica with an epigraph by Emily Dickinson, and it takes place in Detroit, where I grew up. Jump. A wounded deer leaps highest. I've heard the hunter tell. Emily Dickinson. The first time I fell hard for love, I was a poem turning in the sky. A leaf turns sunlight to sugar, then drops from the tree, slanting its way like Emily deliriously down, amethyst satin, orange wet, hills of earth rotting. Once I jumped from a rowboat to a death into the glittering wind. Lake Erie, ghost cold and dark with chokecherry twigs. Novembers, we tripped the 9-mile road, iced white, broken brick, under the violent trees, bawling for the bad guys. Julie and me, slipping into the Michigan night, in ruby leather thigh highs, eyes frosted wide and pretty, kept our wounds a secret. And now, the unburying of it all, a leap into the red giant stars that are poems, that are fields of leaves covered in perilous hoarfrost. All I ever wanted was to fall. Water break. The Book of Glittering Leaves. This book is all about leaves. Leaves don't drop straight, but rather slant, wing, skim. They slip as paper boats. A boy I once knew built me a canoe out of paper, birch, peel, but I wouldn't climb in, so he sailed it away. The verb leaf means to make foliage or to turn through pages haphazardly. I skim love, like the book is not about me. Lately, my poems slip in and out of tenses. I will make foliage. I have made foliage. I am making foliage. Once, my mother always had to leave. Oh, I said to no one. Oh, to the sequins and feathers. Oh, I say, with my eyelids falling. Maybe things are that much more beautiful when you can't exactly know them. Like bark beetles, terpene, sweet, woodruff, decay. The moon, when the sky grows violent, is covered in cold, deep purples. I make a full moon shape with my mouth, then cover the hole, quick with a mitten, so no one can peer down inside. In a dream, I see the blue-green jack pine out front of my childhood. Snow falling, silver cones and fascicles, where I turned through the window as she was taken away. In my green velvet shift, I look like a leaf. Blue linoleum. Endless blue ward hallway. A long blue, nothing like stretch of sky or sea. To say I remember it exactly would be untrue. Sweet, hard, scuffed blue. Black plastic specks like dirt. Blue floor worn down to dirt white in patches as a dried field. I had a plush toy rabbit fur worn down, that blue. They say the sky blues because blue light scatters more. It travels in smaller, shorter waves. There are waves to what I remember about the light and blue. Through the sealed window, the sun made a yellow parallelogram on the blue. I wanted to save her. My mother, so beautiful blue, in her delphinium dressing gown, held together by blue plastic snaps. Yellow light slants through the forest. The flashbacks come jagged like this. Sun skewering the jack pine over the house. Far off, sharp replay, dream of a bird in the endless woods. I'm a girl hiding. Grandfather in the kitchen with his slender knife. Newspaper woodblock. Days severing the heads from bodies of perch, glimmering silver platters for the funeral guests. Like a movie flashing, lightning on a lake. Someone draped the mirrors in sheets. They hang like a poem. Soft white phantoms caressing the walls. When they find me, limbs scraped, bramble in my hair. Gone all night to the edge of the wind and flowers. Blood marks, mud red as low Kalamazoo River. So I write a lot of ekphrastic poems, and this one is after Les Demoiselles d'Avignon by Picasso, which most of you know is hanging at the MoMA. It's a depiction of the prostitutes in the room, so you know that one. Naked night in the cold room, after Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, Picasso. 9 vacant eyes, wide, wild, almonds in a tree field. I swear they resemble mine. The middle girl leaning against daybreak blue-violet, glimmering velvet, looks like me, but more naked night in the cold room. Torso stark, godlike hollow, elbows magnificent, bark sharp. Her heart, I imagine, it's severed 1,000 times. Sliver of French melon, the sweet haunting moon on its back. I pull my triangle eyelet cape up and off over my head. My arms bend, verbena snap at the stem. So I have some political poems, and I am going to read 2 of those. And this one I wrote last summer. It's called During the War. During the war, the field is green. I drown too much wine. My long silk sea gown. The news drones on and on like a wasp in a full, wet stem. When I track your brow with my tongue, you caw. Grass and its teeth look up the slow cream vicious sky. My eyes shrink small. We do bad things in the sun. Count of crows mix on the wire. They come with their thick, black, godlike call. Another political poem I just wrote. Crossing Harlem bus in a rainstorm. All of us in our dark coats like tilted trees. Park flickering, silver green through the window. Shoulders, satchels, bark brown, paper bags, damp caps, lidded cups of amber liquid. News of the wars everywhere. Glimmering metal bus staggers Manhattan. Lexington, Malcolm X, St. Nicholas. Cross to the Hudson, where blacktop erases to loam and branches, carrying us, water sliding, heartwood running the spine of the Tupelo. A man dangling an unlit cigarette. Me in a body slanting on the closed door. By now, you know, I clench a book. News of the wars everywhere. You in the future who is reading this, you will wade in your tallest boots in the tall, wet grass. Rain that folds in waves as the sea. I'm going to read one from my book, Glitter City, and then one last poem, which is a little lighter. We'll end on a lighter note. So here's my book, as Susana pointed out earlier. And this poem is called Grandmom's Round Moon Cookies. The first two words are in Yiddish. Grandmom's Round Moon Cookies. Moon kichel, poppy seed cookie. Everything round. The rabbi says we are everything turning. Peasant sweet, the hands of my grandmom, body swaddled in moon-colored linen. They lay her out in a pine box. Mystery is boxed in the heart. Poems of the heart prepare for death, yet they are not the finish, but the outset. Onset, set, onset, set, the circular dance of shape in the sky. A moon in late afternoon. In a long motorcade down Woodward, we loop around the zoo. Glinting jet limousine, the shape of things, her patient eyes. I once wrote a poem about a Sith I keep coming back to finish. Harvest, wolf moon, sugar, hunger, pink sprouting grass, flower and milk moon, cold moon. These are some of the full moons. So I'm going to read one last poem. And this poem I wrote during the pandemic. It's called Ode to Workshop on Zoom. And speaking of Zoom, I want to thank my hosts, my fellow travelers, Lynn, Sandy, and Susana for hosting. You guys are incredible. I know how much work you put into being the literary citizens that you are. You're very inspiring. And I'm looking forward to hearing Dora and Hilary, and I'm thanking my friends for coming. And it's just kind of hard to remember when we didn't have Zoom. So here we go, a lighter poem. Ode to Workshop on Zoom. Must be the way I blur through Zoom or my moon blue filter. Stranger in the next square, staring at me, staring at the screen of writers dissecting trees and the sea. How they examine my indented line. Eyes islands suggest they want to touch the fragile, fucked up starlit place where my poem meets the moon blue sky. Oh, poets zooming, whisper yourselves in to the frangipani leaves, velvet on the curtain behind my hair. We will always have this, lips close enough to kiss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. And, just as a little aside, yeah, it is really hard to imagine to remember what it was like before Zoom. But the other thing that I really remember is what it was like to return from Zoom. And you were a person I met that way. Like we were at AWP, and so you were a person that I come to know through Zoom, and then to get to meet you in person. It's been one of the most thrilling things. I never say post-pandemic because it really doesn't feel post-pandemic yet, but yeah, to be able to then meet all these people that we've met in these little squares. And so I want to thank you also for for your reading and the way that you look across the world, from your first poem, and bringing Langston Hughes with us, Emily Dickinson, Picasso. And if you've never, I stepped away for a moment because I've been reading Langston Hughes, his The Dream Keeper and other poems. And if you don't have the version that has the woodcuts in it, I just really want to encourage folks to, like, they're beautiful. They're beautiful. So, Yeah, so thank you. Amazing, amazing reading. And I also really appreciate people whose books, like my latest book, came out before this regime came into play. And it really does create a little bit of a um a dilemma about what to read from the book or what not to read. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how I want to put it on any day, in the Glass Studio, there were poems that were written in 2020 about the election, things around the election then and even into before in 2016. So anyway, thank you very, very much. I think you spread an entire table in 15 minutes. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Well, while we were in what I always call the Zoom green room before the reading began, Bonnie had in fact asked, "How do I know Dor?" And I'm going to explain that to you all in just a moment. But first, I want to also wish all of you a spirited International Women's Day. That is today, March 8th. So thank you all for being with us. Well, almost 1 month to the day, on February 9th, I'm sure this is a day Dor remembers well, over in Limerick, Ireland, Revival Press held a gathering to launch another book, as it has done with some frequency many times over the years. However, this launch was extremely special. This one was by our guest today, Dor Seifer, who hosts a live reading series in Limerick in the infamous White House. I was invited by one of Dor's co-hosts. She hosts an in-person series and an online series, which I'll talk about in a moment. I was invited by one of Dor's co-hosts to send some remarks because I contemplated, believe me, I contemplated trying to fly over for the launch, but I wasn't able to manifest that magic in February. So I sent some remarks over, and I want to share those remarks with you since Dor never heard them that night in my voice. Hello, Dor! From the other side of the Atlantic, where I always say now that the ocean brings us together, does not separate us. We need to know this now more than ever. I'm sorry that I could not be present in person for the launch of your debut collection. I know the thrill of launching a debut in Limerick with the formidable Dominic Taylor at the helm, and there's no better place. I can see Edward O'Dwyer shaking his head right now if he's in the room, and Edward O'Dwyer is a person that got me connected to Salmon, so he's responsible, for better or for worse, for me being with all of you right now. You can blame him. Dor, for years, you now have held up a mirror weekly through originally Not the Time to Be Silent and Lime Square Poets, so that local, regional, and international poets can see and hear their light and shadows more clearly. This is a genuine gift you offer the world with your partners in poetry, Lauren McNamara and Lauren O'Donovan. And tonight, on the occasion of Revival Press's publication of On Being Un/Able to Walk Through Walls, we, your beloved community, hold up our prisms so that you can cast your poems into this night to travel forward into the world. We are all the better for the magnificent incandescent light of your poems. Well, so those were the remarks that I sent over, and Lauren O'Donovan generously shared with the crowd that night. And I felt it was really important to acknowledge Dor's literary citizenship. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, when I went online with my sister to try to find reading series, in those early times, there were only two I could find. Wednesday night poetry with Kai Coggin, which is the longest continuous open mic in the United States. It didn't miss a beat, and it didn't miss it during the pandemic. And Not the Time to Be Silent, the reading series that Door hosts, currently with Lauren O'Donovan, now called Lime Square Poets. That was it. There was no Cultivating Voices. The journals hadn't stepped up yet. There was nothing. There was those two things. And those two reading series were true inspirations to me, and really the precursors for all of our reading series that we enjoy so much today, that we can go to like 5 every single day if we want to, during the week. So I want to really acknowledge Door's contributions to not only, Limerick's cultural heritage, but really to the world's cultural heritage around poetry. Well, in the title poem of Door's debut collection, the speaker implores with its opening, "What can I say so beautiful that it is unforgettable, so simple that it echoes until the next time heard?" To make something from nothing, to strive to make something one finds beautiful, to share with others, to attempt to make sense of depth and therefore death and life, to find and try to remake a home. These are all efforts we've seen poets and poems do over and over again across borders of human-made boundaries, space, and time. And what I love always is the daring effort to try again, in the face of thinking we can't possibly do it anew with any more rigor and gusto than anyone else that has come before that is beloved. Think of your favorite poet, and then wonder why you try to even come close. Well, in Seifer's stunning debut collection on being able to walk through walls, Door writes onto the tightrope above the awed crowds of readers waiting to see if she will accomplish the impossible once again. And in the poems I've had the pleasure to read, to hear, and ponder, I'm once again struck by the audacity, the courage, the will to try to make again. And as the reader, it's as if I've been handed a kaleidoscope and asked to turn it a half turn once again, to see what I've seen over and over, all anew. This is Door's debut. Enjoy the new view. Thank you, Door.
Thanks so much, Sandy. And thanks, Susana and Lynn. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, I'll just jump into the poems, because otherwise I'll nervous myself out. The collection is dedicated to my friend Shira, and this poem is for her too. Visit. Your building is an early 2000s monstrosity. Many palm trees and cultivated grass embedded in studded concrete. Sweat-stained balconies a spit away from the Diamond Exchange, where night brings out prowlers in business suits and lambs paling in leopard print. Your building has an electronic directory and an empty echo of an atrium, a harbinger we missed. In your apartment, your mother is draped on a blue towel-covered armchair. Across from her, the fridge is stacked with the best sandwiches in the world. Down the hall, the aging showroom round sink is poised below a mirror with burned-out bulbs. Your face scrubber, suds dried, lies in its resting place beside your comb, time-tangled in knots. Your room, a shelter of reinforced concrete, is shuttered. Your bed made, haunted by your grandmother, still growling at me not to put my rucksack on it. At the edge of your desk, by mounds of books and neat papers, a framed photo you never put there. You hate vanity of any kind. Next to it, the only letter I wrote your mother. 2 pages of blunderings when you always preferred brevity and color. Flesh-colored marble. 3 teal words, Shira Michal Dabush. My quivering fingers strike out as I whisper to you over the yard-side candle, the only words that matter, over and over. The second poem I'm going to read is a poem in 2 parts called Not a Mother. Not a mother. 1. I am not waiting anymore, not spectating. Too ashamed to speak, too involved to leave. I see you falling in, but first you put your violin aside. That's love. You knock your head, tumble onto the shell of your spine to save your hands, your instrument. It had survived a burglary, older than our grandparents, holding more documents too. Wrapped in silk, temperature controlled. My hollow body gawked. The room was loud and kicking with no apology, just raised voices more precious than vertebrae. With red cheeks and steady hands, you picked up the violin and played. 2. I am not a musician, not a mother or spectator. I do not fear my hands. I was always the ear-fearing echoes that kick back, fearing my voice, another womb. I play words, and when I'm done, I lay them on the page carefully, like a violin, outlasting its fiddlers. The third poem I'm going to read today is called Solmization / Wingspan, and it's about preparing to play Saint-Saëns' Swan, which is a cello piece for an audition. Solmization, Wingspan. The swan is about death, said the accompanist for my audition. I thought it was about beauty, the illusion of eternity in a bow, the gentle resistance of water kissing every pore before releasing it. Arpeggios close the gate, busy fingers wiggle, impose emotion. Pianos are but mallets hitting strings, holding down a pedal, sound released under wing. Pianists do not know the yield to gravity, balanced on an elbow's counterweight, the linger to the tip, inexorable return across the bridge towards mother of pearl, circling the gate, accepting the fall. Air goes up, then fades until invisible, but I have perfect pitch. I know middle C, the lodestone always pointing north, and the swan's last sol. Just going to take a quick sip of water. I wrote the next poem while I was working and living in Silicon Valley, California. Apple. Op-ed from an exile in Silicon Valley. You took a second bite of the apple, lost the beasts of the earth and sky, lost the moon, the stars, and the water, lost our ancient language and its poetry. Instead, you compile new languages. Those of us who speak the old tongue, your amanuenses taking down your orders, try to speak to you, the new humans, in this, the new Babylon. The next poem is called Autotomy, which is the process where a lizard discards its tail. And there's a line in it from a Dan Pagus poem that I highly recommend. It's the title, written in pencil in the sealed railway car. It's a fantastic poem, but I just wanted to point that out. Autonomy. Once I believed in you, a homeland, loving simply with no hurt. But how can you love with no memory? The world reborn at the end of the journey, leaving only recipes, tattered flavors from the pail. Stories about woodcutters and bears, not neighbors nor childhood friends. Life, the only belonging you carried. Discarding the tongue you were born with like a lizard discards its tail, adopting an ancient one regrown. Painting poetry in a placeless tongue. That is art's line, growing grapefruits, squeeze turning until art takes new form. Half a helix, a spiral blowing in the wind. I do not carry you in photos, but in texts inscribed upon my memory, as if written in pencil in the sealed railway car. Fear of abandoned bags, a partial story passed on. I have sung the old songs and now unlearn their tropes. I am a writer of new texts, an air plant carried on the wind. I live in a jar with no soil. Thank you. Changing tone a bit, I wrote the next poem after watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy. After. 1. I'd want a beach, but not a golden private shore. A blustery day, salt kissing swelling lips. My grandmother in the purple knit coat, pocket at her hips to warm my hands, hair combs flying out, tosses rocks into an ocean we knew separately. She goes back to her easel. I read from my notebook. 2. Shira's dark curls make the wind dance. The laughter rolls out and we share her sandwich. Talk about how easy it is to slip back into friendship, like a favorite dress when the season is finally right. We walk hand in hand, not second guessing. I say I love you. That's the first thing I say. 3. We sit and pour hot tea into glass cups, dip drunken cherries in, spit out the pits. Honey drips on her silkworm fingers, where cherry trees drink salt water, and we can gather all the pieces of ourselves. See clearly. Bless the horizon. 4. A hush that doesn't feel like silence. Skin sprouts to feathers, dyed into a sunset soft as wrinkles wrapping up lost time. We can see down to bone, past the pump of blood. I am wrapped in mandarin orange, teal, purple, lifted. It is not the end of words. That would be terror. It is where words create again, fuse sound to matter, pull light out of black holes like wool out of a rucksack, hang it to drip dry. Gather treasures like one's laugh, the other's gift for finding beauty. Our weekly pot of chicken soup, offals saved and served by painters' fingers on the day of rest. Dessert is apple carvings, leaving little sculptures at the core. No need to bite the apple. The next poem is called Postmodernist Kabbalah, and as you probably know, Kabbalah is the mystic sort of side of Judaism. Postmodernist Kabbalah. When God was a whole, When God was a whole golden urn filled with light, when the small urn was filled with pure olive oil. Each drop seemed to last forever, casting its glow, ordaining kings. When a small ark with no anchor could itself be a port in the storm, like the grain of sand in the never-ending story, one golden talisman to ward away darkness. People once held the light with quartz, sun sentries to guard the rays as they spiraled into the darkest morning. When the sun was a halo of faith, myrrh and frankincense, a benediction of magi confirmed it. When it was simple, in the beginning, nameless and cradled in the garden's womb, dew cleansed all. Now, sun melts ice, water rises once again, but the urn is shattered, the clay fragile, and the light a glimmer to be clasped with care and wonder. It is our turn to name again, to say, let there be light. Two last poems. This poem is called Beware of Ducks, and I wrote it during the pandemic. Beware of ducks. Snails trailing evanescent glitter just by virtue of going places, reflecting the light that follows everywhere, sinuously feeling their way around with immense gentleness, having the fortitude to carry the weight of a home and the bravery to emerge from it with all their fragility. It's dangerous to be a snail, yet they cannot hurry. Instead, they slowly highlight the way, softening the ground so others may follow. How hard the world must feel to the underbelly. How rough when poked with soft tentacles, reaching out to feel, to touch, to discover what's out there. For my last poem, I'm going to read the title poem of the collection. But before that, I want to say thank you all for listening, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you. I wrote this poem when I watched a documentary video of the physicist Richard Feynman talking about the nature of matter and how all matter can be expressed as waves on being unable to walk through walls. What would I incant were I a ghost to be refound repeatedly? What can I say so beautiful that it is unforgettable, so simple that it echoes until the next time heard? What can equal the medium of waves, be worthy of ionospheric resonance, more relentless than a well-loved tune lasting beyond memory, more universal than breath? When found, I will translate my waves of words into the language of gravity, electric pull, to be plagiarized by a firefly in her epic on wind. She will turn into a fossil buried in a rock someone rests on. We might both break through someday, all entangled in possibility, in pull and echo, briefly rising again, like a sign. Thank you all very much.
That was so beautiful, Dor. Really, really enjoyed that. Really beautiful. So, let's see. Can you guys hear me? Okay, okay. Are you seeing me as speaker view, or is it still Dor? I'm trying to make it go to, okay. Okay, I can't seem to make it go off of you, Dor. That's so weird.
On my
See you.
computer, you're fine.
Oh, it is? Okay. All right, just a delay, I guess. All right, so let me just take a moment to, let me just pause for a moment and process that. It was so many images and so intimate and quiet, and I think I've never heard anyone write a poem from the perspective of the snail and that vulnerable, like, underside of the snail. I mean, if you can put salt on sidewalks after hearing that poem, you're just not, you're dead inside, you know? I mean, that was, I mean, so many beautiful moments. Thank you so much for reading for us, Dor. Um, I know it's like 9 o'clock almost in Ireland right now, and we really appreciate that you're here. So, um, let me just ask, what are you guys seeing now on your screen? Are you seeing Susana in the speaker view?
I see you.
See you.
Me, okay. There's some kind of weird delay on mine, so I'm going to just go to the screen share because it's time for me to have the great honor to introduce the poet Hilary Sideris. Yeah. As Myra Mawkins says in her jacket blurb, Calliope is a page turner. Though I had read some of the poems in this collection, last night I read Calliope in one sitting as my sweet potatoes roasted. Their aroma deepened as the book heated up, and Myra is right. It's a page turner and delicious. To use Amber Charmai's words, the poems in Calliope shimmer with sonic treats. Each poem's title reflects the name of someone the speaker has known since childhood sometimes, including the family friend Calliope, who, quote, named for the muse of eloquence and epic poetry, rarely spoke. This talent for gentle irony and humor is an irresistible thread in the collection, which in the words of Vasiliki Katsaru channel, quote, with humor and empathy, the voices of others. The collection seamlessly pulls all this off and more in work that travels from the Midwest United States, Texas, Rome, and Greece, all the while maintaining its concise and absolutely compelling delivery. You are in for a feast. Please welcome Hilary Sideris.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you for inviting me, and to my friends who are here. And it's such an honor to read with you, Bonnie and Dor. I was loving all the music and the colors, the textures. So I'm honored. So I'm just going to be reading from, you can call it Calliope or you can call it Calliope. It was my grandmother's name. It's a fairly common name in Greece. I wasn't raised in the Greek culture, though. So I've only learned Greek very recently. I mean, studied. I haven't learned, but I'm learning. So in this book, as Lynn said, lots of the poems are names of people, and there's some place names as well. Armani. My ex-hairdresser, Armani, said we had the same enemy. I thought his name was Italian. Armenian, he corrected me. He cut my bangs too short. He talked too long about the past and the Black Sea. A little black Armani dress, a thrift shop purchase, takes up New York space. In my armoire, I wore it once. Saying goodbye entails explaining why. I like to think I have no enemy. I switched salons. And this is Anastasia Anastasia or Anastasia. She asks if asthma is the name of a goddess. Its etymology is dull, unless you're Anastasia, Greek resurrection, ana, up, and stand firm. My remote student who checks boxes on the Oakland waterfront, the world's 5th busiest port, inhaler in hand for quality control. 18-wheelers stall in coiling lines, unload diesel particulates too small to see into her lungs, her blood. It comes from ASEAN, I say, breathe hard. This is Margaret. There's some Italian in the book because I was with an Italian for years, so I learned it a bit. So you'll hear some Italian too. Margaret. When Italy was unified, the Savoy Queen inspired La Margherita pizza, red, white, green, newfangled like the flag. In my big fat Greek wedding, mortifying mothers dance and sing of Palicaria, men who bring home calamaria, margaretaria, fruit and jewels from the sea, which explains why, when I tell my brother's bride her name means Daisy, she says pearl. So I grew up in a little town in Indiana, and people who lived there are called the people who were poor. We weren't rich, but we called the people who were poor or who spoke non-standard English hill rods. That was a thing. So a hill rod is a hillbilly. Just a way to feel better than make yourself feel better than somebody else. Claude. When I spilled milk or dropped my fork, Dad called me Claude. From the Old English clod, a clump of earth, mound, mass, meaning chump or dunce. I spelled poorly and heard Claude, a boy I liked, who got held back and whacked at school, whose name I wrote in my notebook. Claude means cripple, I later learned, a lame attempt perhaps to appease God in times when children often died. I had a heavy crush on lanky Claude, his broad hillbilly vowels when he kidded, "Hey, Hill, working hard, hardly working." As I wiped down the sticky Dairy Queen counter, he tossed $1 on. And this is Vasco. And I should say that Vasco Rossi is a very big singer-songwriter rock star in Italy, and his fans are devoted, and they stay in tents for a week before concerts or maybe more. And in ritardo means late. Vasco. Vasco means bathtub, as in Vasco da Bagno. Vasco da Gama sailed around the world. Tonight, Italian idol Vasco Rossi plays. We've reached the cordon zone, a tent city of hardcore fans in ritardo for Zia Maria's wedding on the Campidoglio. Vincenzo tells the cop he's handicapped, a customary sob story. Her eyes are deep brown pools. Our Cinquecento's radio rocks brown-eyed girl. Van Morrison's an anti-vaxxer now. Maybe not Vasco, but his fans swarming the Circo Massimo, the maximum circus, mess with her head. Maybe she likes a wedding story told by a disabled man. My temples throb vascularly. She waves us through. And this is Calliope. She came from Chios, didn't swim, sat on our redwood deck unsmiling in her heavy black. Named for the muse of eloquence and epic poetry, she rarely spoke. I have many compliment, was her comeback the time Mom asked if all her folks were short. Avgerinos was dead, but she enjoyed Dad's dive into the chlorinated pool in long red trunks, royal blue stripes down his flanks. She cooked volmades, moussaka in the annex we built over our garage, gave us ligo, a little, some. She didn't drive or take the bus. I don't remember one book. Open the light, honey, she said. If there was cake, she'd take a Lego bit. I notice we all have grandmothers in our poems. So I'm going to read a poem called Monarchs. It starts with a quote from an article by my sister, Lisa, who is an environmental ethicist, and she wrote this article about monarchs, monarch butterflies, and just interesting that in ancient Greek, they were called psyches, souls, and in modern Greek, they're called flying flowers, petaludes. So it starts with this quote from my sister. They elicit reflection on cycles of rebirth, renewal, or resurrection, owing to their mysterious emergence in radically altered bodily form from a tomb-like chrysalis. Monarchs, imported tropical milkweed, hosts petaludes, flying flowers, psyches in ancient Greek, named after William, Prince of Orange. A long bloom time means females stay, lay surplus eggs, and don't embark on their iconic pollinating odyssey. Monsanto makes amends, plants non-native species. When they are gone, when monarch means again, only an inbred king, spots will emerge on the clear paper of my hands. Souls flutter by like floaters as I wait for sleep, see the red field inside my lids. And I'm just going to read 3 more. This is called Posto di Merda. It means shithole or place of shit. Thank God she's gone, Vincenzo whispered, but she wasn't. That Roman woman on her phone who promptly sat down next to me. I thought I heard a sob on speaker. Maybe her daughter? Then she yelled, Non posso fare niente. I can't do anything. I'm on a plane to a shithole, un posto di merda. The flight attendant begged, Signora, per favore, spenga il cellulare. Her Louis Vuitton, our Samsonite, rubbed zippers on the steel carousel. Do you know Athens, she said. I've never been here. And just going back to Asia Minor. That's the title of this poem, Asia, and the minor is in parentheses. Turkey meant anything Eastern. To Brits, the bird looked like a guinea hen. Googling Izmit atrocities, I find Virginia's hunting laws, pages of legal muzzles, permitted decoys. Smyrna burned and turned into Izmir. An English sloop rescued my grandfather. I'm 8% West Asian, according to Ancestry.com. Schlieman's face on Agamemnon's mask. Who'll send Lord Elgin's marbles back? In the wild, only males gobble. Just one more to end on a lighter note. Transport. And maybe that's not a lighter note, actually. Transport. I take the Athens metro, my main means of metaphor. Purchase for €1, what I will never know enough to read. So I can say, Paracalo, ephemerida, newspaper, please. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and inviting me.
That was amazing, Hilary. Let's all unmute ourselves if you don't mind, and put everyone back in gallery. Let's unmute ourselves and have a round of applause for all the poets. This was an exquisite reading. It really was. Every moment was very just pure and precise and intimate and unexpected. I really enjoyed the reading. Normally and thank you so much, Hilary. Thank you, Bonnie, Lynn Emanuel, Doris Seifer, and Hilary Sideris, all three readers. You guys are amazing. We normally have an open mic at this time where people read one poem. I don't think anyone signed up for the open mic. Did I miss it? Is there anyone who wants to read one poem that's about a page long?
I didn't know there was a sign up, but I'll take a spot.
Okay, Jeff. Anyone else?
I would read.
Okay, Jeff, Ellen. Anyone else? Okay, Joanne, I think your mouth is moving, but you need to unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself, Joanne? Okay.
Can we nominate people to read?
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, go ahead. Who do you want to nominate, Sandy?
No, that's what I get for opening my mouth, the same, right? I mean, I'd nominate a lot of people, but I'm just gonna do it. I always want to hear an Elaine Sexton poem. I always do.
Elaine, you want to read in the open mic?
You don't have to, but I do love you. I do love hearing you read poetry.
Oh, Sandy, that's so nice of you. I have to go find one, but sure.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna write that down. Because
I like the nominating open mic. You invented a new form, Sandy.
Yeah. So we've got Elaine, Jeff, Joanne. I think you wanted to read, but you haven't unmuted yourself. You can't figure out how to unmute yourself. Up at the top, if you hover your mouse on your little square where you appear, you see the three dots. If you click on that, one of them should be unmute.
I think Ellen also, you wanted to read, right, Ellen? Yeah, Ellen. Okay,
so Elaine, Jeff, Joanne, Ellen. You guys ready? We'll go alphabetically. So the first one is, it's Elaine.
No. Oh.
All right, do you need more time? Elaine?
No, I have to quickly find something.
Okay, well, wait, we'll go next. We'll go to Ellen and give you a moment. Ellen, where are you?
Okay, I had to unmute. Now I'm trying to find my poem. Hold on.
Here you are.
I have one if you want to save time.
Okay. I am unmuted, by the way, if it's my turn, okay?
Okay, so
When
I'll
it's my turn.
add you to the list.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are you waiting for me?
Ellen, you can go ahead, Ellen, if you.
Okay, I have my poem now. Can everybody hear me?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So I think because it's International Women's Day, I'll read this new poem that I wrote, in which I imagine myself, my teenage self, going to the mall with Elizabeth Bishop.
Oh.
It's called Elizabeth Bishop Hands Me a Penny. We've ditched my father and his Saturday visitation activity. I have the day and I have her all to myself. Let loose in Shoppingtown Mall, we wade the fountain, bobbing for pennies. Music blares from the pipes, tinny, and our thighs gleam green, eerie in submerged lights. I'm a thief, I say. I'm not a good person. I chuck the wishes, but suspect I've already polluted their magic. Elizabeth Bishop in her wool suit and beige socks rolled into sturdy loafers dares me to run up the escalator backwards and not get caught by the mall cop. I will be absolved if I can do it. The miracle of my legs scrambling up the grated maw, the lub-dub of my fatherless heart. Who thought to carpet the mall in speckled brown, like a wide trail through the forest, or down the steps like a waterfall? All conduits lead back to the fountain, where Elizabeth Bishop, its angel, spurts water from her mouth, plashes her bounty on the unclaimed, cast-off pennies. Over time, love softens, she says. Is she talking about her father? How absence becomes the mainspring of desire? All those years of drought, and now she, glorious, orchestrates an abundance of chlorinated water. The twisting knot of my hands undone or cleansed of their doing. The pennies glow green with what I call grief, she calls knowing. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. That's wow. Wow, 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 wow. That's big love. That's big love poem. Big love. Big love.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ellen. That was wonderful. It was really transportive. I'm not sure that's a word. So Elaine Sexton, you ready to read your poem?
I am. Great. Thank you. Beautiful poem. And Bonnie and Hilary, beautiful, and Dor. I'm just getting to know your work, but beautiful. Okay, I'm going to read a poem from my new book, Screen Door.
Yeah.
Ah. I can't stop hearing and touching its splintering and yawning, its mothering, its calling, its bang and air moving through its face, its trim never quite lining up, its wood, its warp, its hook and eye, its New Hampshire, its beach and flies caught in it, its passage, its callback, its self-slamming shut, its banging and its spring, its longing to be pressed, its screws coming loose, its green paint peeling summer cottage hush, its winters in the basement, it's coming up for air, it's Robert Frost, it's Wallace Stevens, it's William Carlos Williams, it's weeping, its mind never satisfied, its roads diverging in a wood, its spine, its sunshine of late afternoon. It's doing what it says it's going to do, the way it paints its own way, its draw, its draft, its closing and not closing, its back door, its back to everything, overgrown grass. On the other side of its wrist, its small knob, its metal, its morning. It's very early morning. It's always very early morning.
Whoa, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
I love how Elaine's poems kind of cascade sometimes in a really, in a measured way that feels totally effortless, and I love that. So Jeff, you are next.
Okay, so this one was published in the Brownstone Poets Anthology in Brooklyn last year. It's called I Want to Be a Pharisee. I want to be a Pharisee, stuffed with superiority, all shoving virtue in your face while smacking those who can't keep pace. And when I catch you at your worst, I'll see to it your life is cursed. I'll drain you of your dignity. I want to be a Pharisee. I want to be a Pharisee. I want it all to be about me. all preaching kindness, peace, and love, while flipping birds at God above. And when you make a small mistake, I'll burn you at my virtual stake to purge you down to purity. I want to be a Pharisee. I want to be a Pharisee, eternally seeking blasphemy, all praying loudly in the square to show the plebs how much I care. And when you act against my rules, I'll cast you out among the fools and bask in my conformity. I want to be a Pharisee. I want to be a Pharisee, well soaked in pure hypocrisy, all wearing goodness on my sleeve, while stripping those who don't believe of all their will to live. And when you tell me why I'm wrong again, I'll nail you high upon a tree. I want to be a Pharisee.
Hmm.
It was me. I want to be a Pharisee.
I guess you do want to be a
Whoa.
So that's funny. I like that. Very lively. So our last open mic reader is Joanne. Let's see, where are you? You said Joanne Grummett.
I'm here. I'm here. Can you see me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read a very brief poem from my collection called A Mirrored Quilt, which is coming out soon this year. And it's called Reflections. I wake to view myself through the window, robed in flimsy summer clouds, my sky blue complexion unblemished. I wash my face in a nearby stream, a watery mirror, window to a time before words, before memory.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Joanne.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. And your new book is called A Mirrored Quilt, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's coming out from who?
Claire Songbirds.
Okay. Okay, so that's it for our open mic. That was fun. That was, my heart's pounding a little bit. I don't know.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you
Appreciate it.
Lynn,
Thank
you
you so
just
much.
need, you just take it down a little, relax.
Okay.
All is well.
Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Sandy.
I know that. That's why I'm saying it's time to, you can, that's all is well. You have done the lion's share of the work today. Thank you.
I don't know, we all have.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for being here today on International Women's Day. I mean, I'm so struck by where we all traveled, in the poems today. We truly did, as Bonnie said in her first poem, we did look out across the world. We surely did. So thank you, everyone, for all of your poems. Thanks for folks in the open mic, Ellen, and, Elaine. I put Elaine right on the spot. Thank you, Jeff, Joanne, beautiful. And of course, our features. What I really love about this reading series and like cultivating voices as well as Lime Square Poets, any of the folks that are reading in the open mic the next month or the next week are the featured poets. So it's such a treasure to be able to be in these rooms. And so thank you to today's guest poets, Bonnie, Jill Emanuel, Seifer, and Hilary Sideris. I can't say it better than what Lynn said about the reading today, about really its intimacy. And there was a bit of glimmer and glitter. There was indeed. There really was. It was very starry, as I like to say. I want to also invite you all, come back. We are in every other month reading series. So our next reading will be May 10th, Saturday, May 10th. And it's an exquisite reading, folks. We will have Barbara Unger, Sarah Garagosian, and our very own Lynn McGee will be reading from her latest collection, recently out, Science Says Yes. So of course, come on back and join in us celebrating the poets that we're bringing to you here on West East Bi-Coastal Poets of the Pandemic. I believe that Carolyne Wright will be here with us. And I want to just give a couple program notes because we've got these folks here. If you haven't had enough of poetry this weekend, I hate to plug my own reading series, but I'm going to do it because Cultivating Voices live poetry tomorrow in our own kind of nod to International Women's Day. Tomorrow, our features will be, and Dor knows this first poet all too well, is Koch O'Neill McCullough from Scotland will be joining us, along with Kashiana Singh, Megha Sood. I know many of you know both of them, as well as Allison Pine, a really amazing poet from Headmistress Press. That's tomorrow, same time as this reading series tomorrow. That'll be 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 8 o'clock over across the pond in the UK and Ireland. And folks, because I didn't really mention this, Lime Square Poets is not just a reading series in Ireland. The whole world is welcome, and I've benefited from being in those squares over in Limerick on Thursday afternoons. It's 2:45 Eastern to sign up on the open mic. So 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the reading starts with their feature. And it's every single Thursday. So, Dor and her co-host Lauren O'Donovan are incredible poetry citizens showing up every week on Thursdays for that. Well, keep doing what you all do, everyone, showing up in all the different places that you show up, whether you're reading your poetry, curating a reading series, doing a workshop in your communities. It's so obvious that everyone is out there sharing poetry and really being really great ambassadors and poetry citizens at a time when I think poetry is always critical, obviously, but I really, really think it's beyond critical now. And so, keep holding those conversations through poetry. And we look very forward on behalf of Lynn McGee and Susana H. Case and our dear Carolyne Wright. I'm Sandy Yannone, and thank you so much, everyone, for being here today on West East Bi-Coastal Poets of the Pandemic. We'll see you in May.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Really appreciate it. Thank you.